Hello, everyone. My name is Alex Weiser. I'm the Director of Public Programs of YIVO, and we're so pleased to have you joining with us for this podcast recording of Person, Place, Thing with host Randy Cohen. Today's episode is with YIVO's own Jonathan Brent, and he's going to be speaking about 3 objects from YIVO's collection. So today's episode is more of a thing, I think it's fair to say. For those that don't know YIVO, and we have viewers watching online live right now as well, YIVO is a very special place for the celebration and cultivation of Jewish history and Jewish culture. We have an archives and a library with over 23 million documents and over 400,000 books, which are used by researchers around the world. And we bring the culture of those collections alive through our public programs like this, through our exhibitions, and through our classes. And so thank you so much for joining us. And without further ado, I'd like to hand things over to Randy Cohen.
Thank you, Alex. You've left me bereft. I have very little to say. Yeah, we're tweaking our format to thing, from Person, Place, Thing. We're recording for radio. That's our primary audience, although I know you have literally millions of people watching online right now, as I understand. So we're, and there'll be Q&A at the end. So if you want to ask Jonathan inappropriately personal questions, this is your chance. I can't compel him to answer, though. The show so far lacks subpoena power, which I think is a shortcoming. We are primarily a radio show, and I think that means show, and which means there should be live music. And I'm delighted that this evening the music will be performed by Jardena, Gertler-Jaffe, and Bethany, Pietroniro. Thank you.
Our first selection this evening is a children's song by Moses
Pretty beautiful, right? Don't you think?
Oh, it was wonderful.
So,
it's a hard act to follow.
Jonathan, would you swing that in just a little closer? Ah, lovely.
Okay.
So delighted. Will, are you okay? Okay, so what's your first thing?
My first thing for this evening is a letter that was from the Mohonk Resort to a Mr. and Mrs. Feldberg, dated June 15th.
Do you have it in front of you? Do you have it here?
No.
Oh, I should have reminded you. Yeah, because it's so short, you should
Yeah.
read it, but you have
Yeah.
to be on mic.
June 15th, 1922. And the letter simply states, shall I read the whole?
Yes, but yeah, I think so.
Okay, I'll read the letter. It says, Mr. and Mrs. Morris Feldberg, Accord, New York. Dear Mr. and Mrs. Feldberg, we are in receipt of your letter of June 14th to Mr. DeWitt and wish to state that we do not employ people of your race. Trusting that our delay, and note that the delay was barely 24 hours, in answering you has not caused you too much inconvenience, I am very truly yours, T.W. Smith for Daniel Smiley, proprietor. So why is this letter important?
Well, because it's anti-Semitic and prompt. Usually, anti-Semites can be just, it takes them
Yes.
forever.
First of all, the Mohonk Resort is in the National Trust for Historic Preservation. It is a distinguished, venerable, and really quite wonderful American
Oh yeah, I've been. It's a spectacularly beautiful. Weren't
institution.
there were important peace conferences held
Yes,
there?
peace conferences about the improvement of the life of Native Americans. Many distinguished individuals were there. Thomas Mann visited, Isaac Asimov visited. It was a very open, free, tolerant society. It represented, as the National Trust said, through its buildings and roads, its land and spirit, Mohonk exemplifies American history and culture. And indeed, it does. Because in 1922, America was on fire with something that not that many people know enough about.
Are you thinking of the revival of the Klan?
I'm thinking about what led to the revival of the Klan, which is white supremacy and the ideology of white supremacy that in the 1900s became tied to biology.
So you think their use of the word race was eugenics, not just a sort of general way of referring to a group of people?
No, it was the hallmark, the hallmark of the eugenics movement.
We don't hire people of your race.
Of your race. That's what makes this letter important, exactly. And what it shows is that this distinguished organization, this venerable, open, tolerant, American to the core organization that advocated core American values, was infected by this wave of white supremacist eugenics, anti-Semitism, but also anti-Catholicism, against Italians and Southern Europeans as well, that had been stirred up by someone by the name of Madison Grant. Madison Grant was he wrote a book in 1916 called The Passing of the Great Race. Hitler wrote him a letter and said that he keeps it on his bedside because it is his Bible.
Just the phrase fan mail from Hitler is
Yes,
already
think about it.
It's horrible.
And this man, Madison Grant, was a great man in American civic and social life. He was a lawyer. He had studied at Yale. He got a law degree at Columbia. He helped to save the redwoods because he was one of the founders of the conservation movement in the United States.
Well, do you find it a contradiction in some way, or a paradox, that someone can be quite virtuous in many ways, but quite horrible in others?
Not at all. No, I think it happens all the time. And the thing is that he was completely convinced of the rightness of his views because they were scientifically proved.
Ah, well, science, yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And this helped to create the conditions for the Immigration Act of 1924, for which he lobbied in Congress on more than one occasion. And his views were taken up by Calvin Coolidge, who in 1923, when he was still vice president, said that it is a biological fact, science has proved that Jews and Southern Europeans are of a lower race and should not infect America.
Well, what was also impressive about this note to me is it's so unembarrassed.
Yes.
It's quite cheerful, it's quite polite. They seem unashamed of their anti-Semitism.
Well, why should they be ashamed of it when it's a scientific fact? It's like talking about polio or the measles or something else completely non-controversial.
Ah, thank you for that. I also like that the note came from the ironically named Daniel Smiley.
Yes, well, he was a descendant of the founders of Mohonk.
Oh.
They founded it in 1870, and they infused into it their jolly, American, tolerant, open, lovely humanism. And he was one of their descendants.
Is part of what makes this letter important also that we cannot rely on individual virtue to save us, that we all exist as part of a culture?
Yes.
And it's very difficult for people to immunize themselves from the larger forces of the culture.
Absolutely.
Daniel Smiley was not a bad guy.
He was not.
There were conservationists involved, but Mohonk's a wonderful place, and yet.
And then, of course, we read that Eichmann was a very lovely man. He was a good father. People liked him. The commandant of Auschwitz had lovely children. He took care of them. Yes, so what you're saying is absolutely right. And this homely little letter that really did not put anybody in a crematorium, and it didn't have any really horrible impact except for the Feldbergs, is an example of how these ideas can infect the whole society from the bottom up.
Do we know what happened to the Feldbergs?
No, we don't.
That's too bad.
I know.
It would be nice to know, like, where did they end up working?
I know, and we don't know I've looked into it. We don't know how we got this letter either.
Oh, really?
Yes.
It's just in your archives?
Well, we had rather imprecise record keeping at a certain point in our history.
I feel that's a phrase that covers a much more complicated problem. Do you have a sense of how Mohonk evolved to, it seems like a benign place today?
It is. I think after the war, after these ideas became pretty much extinct, but you have to understand that these ideas of eugenics and white supremacy were ideas that were being funded by the Carnegie Foundation, by the Rockefeller Foundation. This was not a hole-in-the-wall group of malcontents. This was mainstream American thinking. This is white bread America. And it took a world war and the revelations of the post-war period to put an end to these ideas. But as perhaps a last note about this, at the Nuremberg trials, one of the Nazi commandants introduced into the record the writings of Madison Grant to show that the ideas that the Nazis were using did not originate with them, but in America itself.
Do you feel that this letter has, and eugenics in particular, has an unfortunate contemporary ring to it, that we
Yes,
live in
I do.
challenging times?
And I think that particularly now, everyone is extremely worried and upset about the anti-Semitism that comes from the left and the anti-Americanism that comes from the left, and so on and so forth.
Oh, I thought you were going to refer to the anti-Semites Trump routinely has dinner with, rather than the anti-Semitism of the left. Not to deny it.
What I was going to say is that indeed it's taken our eye off the subject that this letter references, which is white supremacy in the United States, and the magnitude of harm that those ideas did are far greater than what we now see coming from the left.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
You
yeah,
know?
Absolutely. And that I would, I think, go further and say that this is a kind of pseudo war on anti-Semitism from the White House used to justify reprehensible policies. And it makes me very, very sad that many of my fellow Jews are applauding Trump's supposed efforts to fight anti-Semitism, even as he's dining with these horrible, horrible people. These are challenging times.
The greatest crimes against the Jewish people have been from the right, and we have to remember that.
Well, I think that's a nice, solid ending to the segment. So I think we need to hear another song.
Okay.
We can stay, or should we clear the stage? Would you like us out of there here? Okay.
All right.
By chance, our next gig together is at Mohonk, just as a coincidence. This next piece is a very famous Yiddish song about coming to the golden land of opportunity, the United States. Zu mir ist gekommen a Cousine, schenkt Gottes Segen in die Grine, bettelech wie reute Pomeranzen, fesselech was betten sich zum Tanzen, bettelech wie reute Pomeranzen, fesselech was betten sich zum Tanzen. Nicht gegangen ist sie nur gesprungen, nicht gerät hat sie nur gesungen, lebendig und fröhlich ihre Miene, und das sei gewähnt ist mein Cousine, lebendig und fröhlich ihre Miene, und das sei gewähnt ist mein Cousine. Und das soll ja rüber sein in Jahren, von mein Cousine ist ein Teil geworden. Das hat sie jahrelang geklebt, bis von ihr ist gar nicht geblieben. Das hat sie jahrelang geklebt, bis von ihr ist gar nicht geblieben. Heint als ich begegnet mein Cousine, und ich frag sie, was sie machst du der Miene? Entweder sie mir mit der krumme Miene, als brennen soll Columbus ist Medine. Entweder sie mir mit der krumme Miene, als brennen soll Columbus ist Medine.
Thank you. So, Jonathan, what's your second thing?
It stopped working. This thing.
We'll describe
Okay.
it vividly for the radio.
The second object is a very, very, very special artifact that we have in our archive from the Lodz Ghetto. We call it the Album of the Children, the Book of the Children. It's unique in the sense that every child in the school system in the ghetto, of which there were somewhere between 14 and 15,000, signed this book. There were schools in the ghetto. Many people don't know that the ghetto was organized like a little city inside of a city. And there were shops, and there were schools, and there were restaurants, and there were all kinds of things. But the schools were the protectors of the children. And what made the Lodz Ghetto different from, say, the Warsaw Ghetto or the Vilna Ghetto was that it was completely sealed. Food could not get smuggled in. Nothing went in or out. Everything that those children ate, every comfort they had, every security they felt was the product of the action and the work of the elder of the ghetto, Rumkowski. And so, in September 1941, the teachers, for whatever reason, but we suspect in order to emphasize to Rumkowski the fact that these children are grateful to him and need him and respect and honor him, had all of the children draw beautiful pictures in every school. And some are in the lower grades, some are extraordinarily ornate pictures, some have Polish writing, some have Yiddish writing, some have Hebrew writing. And then after the New Year's greeting, because it was going to be presented at the time of Rosh Hashanah, the New Year, each child would sign his or her name. And it is the only record for the vast majority of these children of their existence. Of the over 14,000 that were in the school system, approximately 200 to 300 survived. And so this makes it a most remarkable testament to this time.
Was the main function of the album meant to be a tribute to Rumkowski then? Is that why it was put together?
I believe so, yes. I believe that it was produced in order to show their gratitude and to get him to recognize the extent to which they depended on his generosity and goodness. And the irony, of course, is that not long afterwards, the schools were shut down because of overcrowding in the ghetto. And then a year later, all the children are deported to Auschwitz.
How do we know that there were 100 or 200 that survived?
We just know this anecdotally. We just know it anecdotally. I don't think anyone has ever actually studied all of the records, but that's the best guess that those who have thought about this and tried to understand the enormity of the disaster of the Lodz Ghetto have come to.
There's something so potent about seeing the names of the
Yes.
dead that it puts me in mind of Maya Lin's Vietnam Memorial, that people touch
Yes.
the names.
Yes.
It's incredibly powerful.
It's incredibly powerful. And some years ago, I was visited by Marian Tursky, who at that time was approaching 90 years old. He's now dead. He came to my office. He was in the Polish government after the war. He was very prominent in Jewish matters in Poland, and he decided to come and pay a visit to YIVO. We're sitting in my office, and I just asked him where he was born, and he said Lodz. So I said, Marian, were you in the Lodz ghetto? He said, yes, I was. Wow. And I said, well, do you remember signing a book? He said, yes, I kind of remember something. And so for 2.5 hours, we went through the entire book looking for his signature, and we found it. And he almost fainted because his signature was directly under the signature of his best friend, David Shurakowiak, whose diary has become also world famous, who did not survive. And we have people coming to YIVO from all over the world to see if a signature of an aunt or an uncle or a father or grandfather or grandmother might be found in this book.
Why do they want to see those names in the book? Is coping with death become more real when you have this evidence? It's a tragedy that's so hard to grasp.
It's impossible to grasp. I don't even try to grasp it. It's beyond anything we can understand. The terror, the daily humiliation, the exhaustion, the disorientation, the dislocation of people, the pulling of families apart, the wailing and the screaming, and the schools. The schools tried to maintain places of sanctuary, of normality, where there's a teacher and there's a feeling of some security, you know. I think people come to see this book because so many people are looking for any trace whatsoever that this loved one actually existed. And this signature in the book is, you know, it's more potent than a photograph.
Names.
It's a name. And in that person's hand at 14 years old or 13 years old. It's extraordinary.
Extraordinary. How did it come to be a part of the YIVO Archives?
It's a fantastic story. There was a man named Zonabend, and he was the ghetto mailman.
Wait,
the ghetto mailman.
What does that mean, ghetto mailman? If the ghetto
just as there were restaurants and shops and schools,
but where did the letters?
They had mail
from within the ghetto.
From within the ghetto and
from outside.
From outside, and
they could get letters.
Yes,
from outside?
they could get letters, and he would deliver the mail. And so therefore he knew where everything was, you see. He knew where everything was, and he was selected by the Nazis at the very end of the war, after the liquidation of the ghetto, to package things up and send them to Germany, to package up documents and objects of one sort or another. It was a small group of Jews who were in this task force. And when a Nazi guard was not looking, he snuck out and he just started grabbing documents and putting them in suitcases. And he found all of Rumkovsky's private letters and testimonials and things, and we have them here at YIVO today because of Sonnabend. And among those things that he grabbed was this book, because he knew the value and importance of this book. And he took these suitcases and he ran. I mean, he had no time to waste because he was afraid the Nazis would start looking for him. Where is he gone? He's supposed to be packaging things up. What's he doing, you know? So he's running around and he sees in the courtyard a dry well. And so he puts everything in the dry well, and then strewn about in the courtyard are blankets and mattresses and schmatas and all kinds of things, you know. And so he grabs as much as he can and he stuffs it on top in the dry well, hoping that it will preserve it from the elements and from notice. Miraculously, he survived the war. And he came back and he found this material. And then through the intercession of the poet Avram Sutzkever and Shmerke Kaczerginski, another poet, he was persuaded to send all of these materials to the YIVO Institute in New York.
This is just such a series of one unlikely event.
Yes, exactly.
piled on another.
One person that has happened again and again and again and again in our crazy history. One person. And it shows you that's all you need. But you need that one person.
Yeah, and it's hard to predict who that person will be, or
The mailman?
The mailman.
Yes,
the
of
lost-
course. Why not? Why not? Of course. And yes, but it's very hard. Not a magnate, not a billionaire, but a mailman.
One of the things I find confounding about your work is that you must deal with such profound tragedy so often that does it not crush your spirits? And I wonder if the examples of the mailman of the ghetto is some antidote to that.
It doesn't. It doesn't. We have a photograph here in this archive of the pogrom in the town that my family is from, Zhytomyr, in Ukraine, and arranged among the caskets that are there is a family member. So, you know, if anything, working at YIVO tells you that these tragedies are part of a whole, part of a larger reality we inhabit, and there is tragedy, there will be tragedy, there will be terrible, terrible, terrible things. We also have joke books. We also have the organizational records of Grossinger's Resort. With beautiful pictures of Elizabeth Fisher Taylor. We have pretty children dancing. We have happy faces. We have sad faces. We have letters of we have horrible things from the Sonderkommando, from the death camps, and we have the beautiful music such as was being sung here today. And so that, how can you just be devastated? I am not.
Clearly you're not, but I find it a bit mysterious and quite impressive that you're not.
I find YIVO to be so inspiring a place because it is the whole. If it were only the Holocaust, if it were only these horrible eyewitness accounts, yes, one could become more than just gloomy. But this is a vast, the perspective of YIVO is that of a vast horizon. both morally and temporally.
100th anniversary, too, I believe.
And it is our 100th anniversary, and we have survived. We survived the Nazis, and we survived the Soviets, and thus far we have survived the Americans.
I think we should hear one more song. Thank you, Jonathan. So, thing number 3.
Thing number 3 could be considered an outlier. It is not a Jewish artifact as such.
You know, I could call security and have you thrown right out.
But we have many such objects. This happens to be a box of cigarettes from produced in Moscow sometime in the early 1950s, we believe. The cigarettes, I am told, are ones I should not even imagine smoking. They would be lethal. They were probably lethal when they were first made, but they're even more so now. It's a box of cigarettes. What's special about this? Clearly, the person who donated this to YIVO understood the importance of the cover art on this box of cigarettes, because that cover art is a replica, or is supposed to be a replica, of a very famous painting by Ilya Repin, a 19th century Ukrainian-Russian artist who Clement Greenberg once castigated as basically the father of kitsch. But nevertheless, he was quite eminent at the time, and I think is due for a reassessment. This particular painting that he made, he started it, I believe, in the 1870s, and it took almost 20 years for him to finish it, is called The Reply of the Zaporozhian Cossacks. And it is a fantastic painting that shows the Cossacks with Taras Bulba, the legendary, if not mythological, Ukrainian warlord.
Yul Brynner in the movie.
Standing on one side of the table with his big belly, his hands on his belly, and looking very smugly out at the proceedings that are going on. What are the proceedings? The proceedings are that the Cossacks have come together in the wake of a Cossack victory over the Turkish Sultan. The result of which is, according to the narrative, a declaration by the Turkish Sultan that the Cossacks should surrender and will be treated well by the Sultan. For this act of incomprehensible arrogance on the part of the Sultan, the Cossacks get together and they just devise every horrible insult they can think of, and they have their amanuenses writing them down, and these they're going to send to the Turkish Sultan to tell him that he can go jump in the lake, so to speak. Now, what makes this particular cover illustration for the box interesting, a couple of things. One, yes, there is Taras Bulba. There are the toothless Cossacks with their flaming eyes and their hair and their rough, rugged features. But in the cover illustration, interestingly, if you compare it with the actual painting by Ilya Repin, you see that their features have been lightened. They're not as swarthy. In fact, there is one Cossack standing behind the table looking on with a giant smile, something between a smile and a sneer on his face. And in the original, he has no teeth, and now he has teeth.
It's the progressive Cossack dental
Yes.
care.
So the Cossacks have been sort of cleaned up by the Soviet regime just to make them look better. That's all, just to make them look better. And the most important thing, however, is that Taras Bulba is standing at one end of the table. The writer is in the middle of the table, surrounded by the Cossacks who are hurling these insults. But his son, the son of Taras Bulba, is standing at the other end of the table, holding, in 1870, when Repin began this painting, the furled Ukrainian national flag. And the furled Ukrainian national flag that he is holding does not appear on this box of cigarettes.
So Ukraine now a part of the Soviet Union.
Yes.
We want to face its national aspirations.
What is clear about this painting and what makes it what makes this little inconspicuous box of cigarettes, this thing that you would see in a gift shop and just, not pay any attention to. What makes it important is that it reveals everything that the Soviets wanted to show the Ukrainians about their place in the Soviet Empire. You are picturesque people, you are rugged, you are strong, you are courageous, but you're ours. But you are ours. Forget your national aspirations. Forget that you are a distinct people. You are ours. And so the painting is there in a perfect Soviet propagandistic way, on the one hand, to promote Ukraine, and on the other hand, to totally neutralize it.
So the assumption was no one would notice that the flag had changed? People wouldn't remember the painting?
Probably not, or they wouldn't want to remember it.
Well, and we've made, real technological progress in altering images for our convenience, that so that we can put M3 tattoos wherever we want them.
Right.
Whereas the Soviets really could only take things out, like they could airbrush someone out of the reviewing
Yes,
stand
exactly.
on the May Day parade if
Yep.
Stalin didn't like them anymore.
Yes.
So we haven't made moral progress, but we've made technical progress.
Right, but what it also shows, and why I think I wanted to talk about it on this program, is how relevant it is today. Because what they wanted for Ukraine in 1950 is exactly what Putin wants for Ukraine today. He would like to see such a picture of Ukraine on another box of cigarettes. Show them how great they are, how strong they are, how mighty they are, and yet how completely helpless they are.
So no moral progress of any kind then?
I wouldn't say moral, although I might agree with you if we talked about it longer, but I would say political.
Oh, okay. And again, how did you get this?
This we don't know.
What do you mean you don't know?
I've looked into it, and by the way, I have done a fair amount of research on this box of cigarettes. I have not been able to find another example of this box of cigarettes anywhere.
If only someone had donated a carton.
Yes.
You could, it's so sad. So do a lot of things just people send them in?
Yes.
The Smithsonian, it's a similar
Yes.
thing. People think they're personal possessions. Like I might send you my bar mitzvah pictures, but I assume they'd be of no interest to anyone.
Well, I used to keep a wonderful cartoon on my door. The cartoon is of two dinosaurs. One is the lawyer, and the other is the nephew whose uncle has just died. And he comes to the lawyer to find out what his inheritance is. And the lawyer says to him, the lawyer dinosaur says to him, well, I'm sorry to tell you that your uncle didn't leave you any money, but in 100 million years, he'll be worth $100 a barrel.
Ha!
So, and you don't know if those bar mitzvah letters will ever be important.
No, I appreciate that, but you can't keep everything.
No, you can't. We try to.
How do you possibly grapple with this, that a seemingly innocuous thing might be of real significance?
Yes. And on more than one occasion, we have discovered precisely, that letter from Mohonk, come on. It's just a letter, a little tiny thing. But you see, that's what I love about YIVO. YIVO tells you everything matters. Everything.
But everything doesn't. Everything
No, it
matters,
does.
but there's not enough. But you can't show everything at one time.
No, you can't.
So where is everything?
We can only do what we can do.
No, but but physically right now,
Oh,
where
in
is
this
it?
building.
It's all in this building?
About 65% maybe is in this building,
Where's the rest?
in Patterson, New York.
What's in Patterson?
A warehouse.
Oh, so but I mean,
And then there is another collection of our materials in Vilnius.
a collection that's displayed?
Yeah?
Oh, that I understand. But it seems like this enormous amount of material, it's impossible to tell. There are things you would be reluctant to throw
Yes.
out, and yet
Yes.
you have millions of things.
Yes, we do. You'd be amazed what we have. We have boxes of matches as well as cigarettes. We have face masks.
I'm glad if you have the matches to go if you're going to have the cigarettes.
We have hygiene equipment.
Do you have, by the way, are the cigarettes from that cigarette box still in, or do you just have the box?
No, if you want one, we can get you one.
You made that
But
sound
really,
so appealing.
I think you should talk to your doctor ahead of time.
Wow. Hey,
Yeah.
will you take a question or two?
Sure.
Anyone?
Yeah.
Do we want? I have a feeling we might not, but no, maybe not. I mean, this might be. Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you. I was wondering, I was just very struck by the art of storytelling that's involved in this presentation. And I've been thinking a lot lately about storytelling, and just, I think it's a beautiful medium in a world that really values clinical data so much and like large data sets. I really love personal stories. And I was wondering, like, I'd love to know yours. Like, how did you come to work in archives and like to sort through artifacts? And that's a very particular kind of work. So I'm wondering what drew you to it.
Well, most of my life was spent as an editor. I was at Northwestern, then Yale, and I worked with books a lot. But I started a project in the 1990s called the Annals of Communism, and I went to Moscow in January 1992, and I made deals with all of the archives there because I had talked George Soros into the idea that this stuff was important and we needed to publish what was in those archives. And he said he would help me. He said, you have the ideas, I'll have the money, and we'll make this work. So I went there, and that was my first real taste of archives. But exactly the experience that Randy is talking about of touching the document, and that electric moment happened to me on more than one occasion. The first was when Lenin's party card was put in my hand. And the second was when I saw the original documents for the Katyn Forest massacre with Stalin's signature on it and Beria's signature on it. And you know, you see something like that and you just want to jump to the moon. And it just showed me how powerful this was. And so we created a project of publishing these documents with scholars who could tell the stories of the documents, because it's wrong to think that documents speak for themselves. They do not. You need a Virgil. You need somebody to tell the story. Even Dante needed Virgil, you see, because otherwise he couldn't make sense of hell. And when we're talking about the Holocaust, we need a Virgil. Or when we're talking about really anything. And so I had worked with YIVO going way back to when I was at Northwestern University Press. And I got to know people at YIVO and very interested in it. But it never occurred to me that I would be the right person to be the director of the YIVO Institute. Never in a million years did that occur to me. Until someone called me and asked me to come for an interview. And I kept saying, no, why? I have a good job in New Haven. In fact, they're going to pay for my children's education, you know, and it's not a bad place. It's not a bad place to work. They actually balance their budgets at the end of the year for the most part. But it was when I came to meet with some of the staff, and the chief archivist at the time put the guide to the YIVO archives in my hand. And I just started, they were talking, but I was leafing through, and I began to see what was in this archive. And, you know, I had been in Moscow, I saw all of this stuff, and it just, the thought just came to me, this is the treasure of the Jewish people. And how could I not have known about this? How could I, having published YIVO stuff, having been around YIVO for many, many years, how could I not know that this existed in the heart of Manhattan and has been here for 80 years? And so it became intriguing to me. And then, you know.
Hey, Jonathan, is everything can't already be cataloged, is it?
No, not everything is cataloged, but almost everything is cataloged. I think we've done a very good job in cataloging it online. We have, as Alex said earlier, about 24 million documents, and of these, only about maybe 3.5 million are online, digitized and online. We are working very hard to produce new online collections, and we will do so, but it takes a tremendous amount of time. But let me tell you, when we put those first 1.5 million documents online, in a normal year, we would get between 5,000 and 7,000 people in our reading room looking at this stuff. We put them online, and in the first year, we had 325,000 people looking at these materials online, and in the next year, 750,000 people around the world. And this is what convinces me that we have to continue to expand this digital operation of ours, because these people around the world, in Idaho, in Moscow, in Beijing, in Nairobi, God knows where Jews are, but wherever they are, they have been starved for material information about their heritage. And these materials that we're putting online are, for the first time, helping to reintroduce to a world Jewish community the heritage that was almost completely destroyed by the Nazis, suppressed by the Soviets, and then forgotten by the assimilation of our grandfathers and fathers.
We have a question from online. So you've talked a lot about YIVO's collections. Is YIVO still collecting today? And what would you like to see added to YIVO's collections?
We are still collecting. We just got a major collection from Michael Tilson Thomas of the archive of Boris Tomaszewski, his grandfather. We received a very, very substantial Holocaust collection some years ago. Natan Blumenthal collection. But we also get people donating private letters of their mothers or fathers. Often they're in Yiddish. Often no one in the family can read these materials any longer, and they want to make sure that they will not be destroyed. I want to see more coming about the post-war period. I want to see more collection, if we can, that deals with the condition of Jewish life today. I realize that YIVO is in a far different place than it was in 1945, obviously. There are numerous other Jewish organizations that are collecting. There's the State of Israel, etc. But there is much that remains unknown, especially about Soviet Jewish life, the role of Jews in building the Soviet Union, the physicists, the mathematicians, the artists, the writers, the history that we would like not to know about, Jews in the KGB, Jews in the Politburo, the fascination with these ideas is really a vital part of our history. We shouldn't simply say, "Oh no, our history includes everything but that." You know, I was part of an editorial committee some years ago in which we got into the ludicrous debate of who is a Jew, you know, and what was going to be put into this volume that was being prepared. And so innocently, or not so innocently, I said, well, I think we should consider Trotsky and put him into this volume too. And it was flatly rejected. Flatly rejected. We don't want a Bronstein in this collection, you know. So I think we continue to collect everything we can. But I would love to see more about the present state of Jewish youth, in particular. Let me tell you something. We've all heard of Antifa, and when I was in Vilnius looking at our collection there, the curator pulled out a poster from 1936. And on the top left-hand corner in Yiddish is the word Antifa. Why? Because they were anti-fascists protesting the Spanish Civil War. So I photographed it and sent it to my son.
Nice. That same kind of electric thrill you get when you see Lenin's party card, the physical object. How does presenting those physical objects is so potent? How does that fit in with your notion of YIVO as an online repository?
Well, you see it online, then you buy a plane ticket and you come to YIVO.
Okay, that's a good system. I mean, really. Yeah, there's an archive and there's a museum.
Yes.
I think of a museum as where the physical objects and that to be in their presence. It's why I like going to the homes of writers whose work I admire.
Yes.
Oh, he sat in that chair and he looked out that window. It changes the way you see the work. It deepens your understanding the actual physical thing.
Right. I had a very great friend who was a writer, a very eminent writer. And one day I said, put your email down for me so I can send you an email. I haven't been able to communicate with you because you don't answer your telephone and you don't answer letters. Maybe you'll answer an email. He said, yes, I do answer emails. So I asked him to put on a sticky his email, and he did. And I keep that sticky on my computer because that was a moment. And out of that little sticky, a whole relationship comes back to me and a whole time in my life and his life. And, you know, it's so, yes, these little things are so powerful.
Yeah.
Not a question, but a comment. Randy, I think you should send your bar mitzvah pictures to YIVO.
I'm changing. I will. And it's an act of great self-sacrifice because I'm wearing an extremely unattractive suit. I think it was, so it was when the Beatles were, I'm very old, and the Beatles were wearing these jackets with velvet collars. That's what I wore at my bar mitzvah. To the shame of my entire family. Maybe our work here is done. Join me once again in thanking Jonathan Brent.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.